It's Whip Wednesday. Are you whipping with your needles? Are you whipping with your hook? Are you telling us a story? Are you writing your first book? Hello, my creative friends. It is Whip Wednesday. If you don't know what that stands for, that's WIP for Work in Progress. Well, if you watched my previous Whip Wednesday video, it's about making you your whip. But in the crafting community, we also call a whip what we're working on. So what's on our needles? My needles today have a stocking. It's white. It's in Knit Picks Shine Sport. Now, if you don't know, on my channel, I am visually impaired. I'm mostly blind. I was born this way. I'm completely colorblind. And so I want to make social media more accessible, and I want to have people with disabilities more on social media. So on my channel, I do what I can to describe my projects for other people who are blind or visually impaired. So these are white. This is a stocking that is knit from the toe up. It is above the knee. It has vine lace on the front, and then of course on the back it's just plain stockinette on the foot till after the heel turn, and then I start the vine lace on the back, and then about mid-calf I add in a couple more stitches, and I'm just adding in a lace pattern. You know, because I'm mostly blind, I have a really hard time accessing patterns. You can watch my video on how my deteriorating eyesight freed me to design my own work. So when I started having difficulties reading patterns, I started just creating my own in my head. It was incredible. It was liberating. So yes, this project is my own creation that I'm designing in my head. I'm not following anybody else's work. So I struggled with how do I even do my increases for the calf. I kind of figured it out. I don't know. Of course, my big problem is I often end up with my bind off too tight. I did the main body of the stocking on a size 2 needle. Then I went down to a 1.5 for my ribbing. And then I thought, oh, I'll just go back up to a 2 for my bind off. It'll be fine. It wasn't. It ended up making the bind off really, really tight. Unfortunately for me, because I do knit by feel, undoing a bind off on a sport weight yarn that's hard to feel on a size 2 needle, I just could not feel my stitches to undo it. So I did just go ahead and sew in the elastic casing when I'm doing an over the knee stocking, something that I want gravity to hold up. I do put elastic in them. These, I think it's good and bad. I got my bind off so tight that it barely gets over my legs anymore. But I will try it on so you can see it. If my legs get much bigger, the stocking won't fit over them. But we'll have to see. I know definitely on the next one to go up several needle sizes on the bind off and probably add in a few more stitches so that it fits for sure. And then who knows, this one does fit, and I've walked around in it, and it definitely does not fall off. So that is the pro when it comes to making your own over-the-knee stockings, is that you do want them to defy gravity. That can be challenging, even with store-bought stockings, right? We end up wearing garter belts and having to fasten those because, well, the whole gravity thing pulls them down. The elastic wears out. So we will see, but as long as my legs don't grow anymore and I can still squeeze them over, I do have an over-the-knee stocking. So we will see. Can I make the second one to match? With the exception, of course, if I do want to make the bind off a little bit looser and then still sew in the elastic. So anyway, it's my own creation. I was designing as I went. I did get the heel a little bit wider than I wanted. Wasn't totally sure. I added the increases at the calf. Let me know your thoughts on that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on anything about this project. Would you do the increases different? I just added yarn overs and then just started working them in. on the side. I don't know. I literally, when I design, because taking notes is challenging for me, I do try to dictate in my phone, and I did dictate notes into my phone. But it's challenging for me. So I tend to just do it on the fly, and that can make it, one, hard to replicate, and then two, sometimes I'm like, maybe that's not how I wanted it. And depending on the stitches that I'm using, sometimes I can rip them out, sometimes I can't. If it's a bigger yarn and I can feel the stitches good, I can rip them out. But the number 2 yarn on a number 2 needle, with lace, not so much. So I knew if I wasn't happy with my increases, it would probably mean ripping out the entire project and starting again. So I just left the increases like that. I wasn't totally thrilled with them, but I didn't want to rip out the whole thing and start it over. So that's where I'm at with that. Let me know today, what are you working on? What's your project? What's on your needles? What's on your hook? Are you sewing? Are you quilting? Do you knit? Do you crochet? What is it that you like to? Are you just thinking about knitting and crocheting? Let me know. Leave me a comment. Are you blind or visually impaired? Are you having difficulties with your eyesight? Let me know how you're doing today. Let me know what you're working on today. But I also wanted to talk about something else if you're on my channel. WIP, Whip Wednesday. Well, I mostly use dictation. I do know where all the keys are on the keyboard, the good QWERTY keyboard. I learned that in the 4th grade. They taught me how to type in school. They were like, ooh, this child's writing is bad. She needs to learn how to type. So I got taken out of the 4th grade classroom, put into a special room with a vision specialist in the 4th grade, and she taught me how to type on an old-fashioned manual, not even electric typewriter. It was a really good thing. I'm so grateful for it. It was one of the most useful things in school that I actually learned. And I did learn a lot of good things. I like to learn. So I'm not actually down on the educational process, but I'm just saying, learning how to type was by far very valuable. So I still know where all the keys are in relation to each other. So I know where the W is. It's on the top left area. But with the way that smartphones and devices are these days, I tend to mostly use dictation. So I just want to make you aware of that. If you are writing a comment or a question in my comment section, and I'm getting back with you, I'm probably using dictation, which you're free to leave comments and questions. I welcome that. I'd love to hear from you, whether it's just to say hi, whether it's to let me know like where you're from, what you're working on, if you have a disability or a visual impairment. I'd love to hear from you. So I welcome that. I do use dictation, and for things like WIP, although the AI is just so smart, it's still like a child, really, from where they're saying it's going to go. But the AI is advancing quickly. They do use AI for dictation, right, where the phone's trying to hear and then guess and then write it, but it doesn't yet know that WIP Wednesday is spelled W-I-P. So when I type WIP Wednesday, it spells it W-H-I-P. So if I'm getting back to you, or if I'm writing a description or something on my channel and it says WIP Wednesday, W-H-I-P, and you know that stands for work in progress, you're like, oh my God, she doesn't even know work in progress is spelled W-I-P. Yes, I do. I know how to spell WIP Wednesday, but I use dictation. So that would be the technology. That would be where the computer's at. When I think about it, when I slow down and I'm doing it, I do try to stop when I get to that point and type it in manually on my phone. And I use a screen reader, so it will tell me the letters that I touch. So I try to actually go in and enter that manually so that I do get it correct. But sometimes I'm just talking, or I'm replying to somebody, or a comment on somebody else's page, or getting back to somebody on my page, and I might just be talking into my phone, dictating along, and say WIP Wednesday, and it's going to come out W-H-I-P. But I just want to say, yes, I know how to spell WIP Wednesday. So At least you think that I don't. I wanted to clear that up. And there's other things like that with knitting, crochet, dictation in general. It does make errors. It is far from perfect. Is it improving all the time? Yes, absolutely. The machines are getting smarter all the time, every day. But they still do get words incorrect. So even, for instance, if I'm talking about the stocking that I'm working on, I might say that I got the heel too wide, and I'm saying H-E-E-L, but of course, the machine, right, it might say H-E-A. It's done that to me before. It gets the words wrong. So I just want people to know that sometimes if you see the wrong spelling of a word, or my dictation loves to add whenever I pause when I'm dictating, even if I'm not finished with a sentence, my dictation loves to add in a period. So then if I start recording again, I might be continuing my sentence, but I just paused to think about it. Well, if I don't check, it's oftentimes that my phone has put in a period. So sometimes I might be getting back to you and it might seem a little choppy, like there's random punctuation in there, or sometimes it puts in a question mark when I'm not actually asking a question. That's a dictation thing. Sometimes I try to correct those things. Sometimes it's way too challenging for me to figure out how to do that. And it also does hear many words incorrectly still. Like I might be dictating the word yarn, and well, I have allergies. So sometimes I'm a little congested and it will say yard. It will think I said yard. And it probably does sound like that some days with my allergies. Again, I know certain words, certain days, it has more difficulties understanding me than others. So I might even go in and check that after I say the word yarn and stop the dictation and go back and delete the last letter. Because I know it hears me say yard instead of yarn. So part of it, I might not be enunciating clearly. Part of it, I might be talking too fast. Part of it, I might be having a bad allergy day, right? When I'm real congested, it definitely has a hard time understanding me. So, just saying, I use Facebook, although not that much anymore. I do sometimes have really, we'll just say, awkward moments on social media because of dictation. We'll just say that. And leave it at that. But I've certainly had many mishaps on social media with dictation where I've had to apologize to people and say, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant to write. I should have listened, because my screen, I use dictation for input, where I use speech to text, and then I also use like a text to speech where it has a screen reader on it and it reads it out to me. So I do try to touch the screen, I do try to listen to it before I hit the send key, but sometimes I'm just cruising along in a hurry doing life, trying to get back to somebody, and it doesn't always come out the way I want it to hear. So I just thought I'd make this video for Whip Wednesday and let you know that yes, I know how to spell whip, but I did use dictation as a person who's visually impaired. So, okay, thank you so much for stopping by today, spending a little bit of your day with me. I so appreciate that. Your time is valuable. So thank you for choosing to give me a little bit of that today. And remember, no matter what it is, creativity is for everybody, right? All ages, all abilities, whether you can see or you're like me, you don't see too much, or you don't see it all. Creativity is for everybody. So no matter what, whether it's knitting, crocheting, sewing, quilting, beading, sculpting, whatever it is, today is a great day to craft and create. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Stop recording button.
I like to include a little audio description for people who might be listening who are blind or who are visually impaired like myself. This video opens with a picture that says welcome to my channel, spelled out in blue and red yarn, and it will close with a picture that says thank you for watching, also spelled out in blue and red yarn. And then I know that the majority of people who have vision issues are the opposite of me, meaning that they see better with light, but they have night blindness. I'm the opposite. It's very unusual where I'm blinded by light, which is why I record in a dark room. And then I can see some at night, open my eyes, but light, my eyes can't do it. So it is unusual. It's okay. I think it's unusual too. I've been this way my whole life. But I do like to include some close-ups for people who might be visually impaired in the light. So this is the stocking from the toe up. You can see the vine lace. And then I'd love to turn it on its side if I can. Hang on.
Pause.
And then this is a close-up of the calf increase that I added. And I just added in a yarn over and then just started adding in a little lace panel with that. I'd love to know anybody's thoughts on that. I just, like I said, design on the fly, work it as I go. So, and that's the cuff. I do a knit to purl to, and I did go ahead and sew in 1-inch elastic. My sewing is not perfect. You'll be able to see it on the top here if you have some sight at all. When I do waistbands and shorts, like the shorts in this video, I'm wearing blue knit shorts with crochet trim. I did make and design those myself. And whenever I do waistbands or cuffs on socks that I want to stay up, I do what's called a turning row, where if I'm working in knit to purl to, I'll switch it up and do purl to knit to. And what that does is it creates a tactile ridge. It's something that you can feel, because I have nystagmus, which means my eyes kind of wobble around in my head, and I have strabismus. I'm cross-eyed. I can't focus my eyes or control them. So I can't see straight and I can't sew straight. And the only way for me to even kind of get a cuff like this sewn in straight, or like the waistband of my shorts, is to actually create a tactile ridge on the fabric that I can then fold so that I can feel that. So if you're wondering how somebody who can't see does a hem like on the shorts I designed, or like the cuff on these socks, and it's still not perfect. I'll be the first to admit it. I try to feel it every couple stitches that I sew and make sure that it's straight, but I'll be the first to tell you it's not perfect. But that is how I do that. I create a tactile ridge there, and I'd recommend that for pretty much even if you're sighted. If you have difficulties keeping that straight, that's what I would recommend that you do. So anyways, and here's the one that is on the needle, the one that I was working in the video. So that's the close-up. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Pause button.